In this episode of The Landscape, I got a chance to speak to Ahmed Bebars, who's principal engineer at the New York Times. Ahmed is passionate about technologies like eBPF and Cilium and was also the leading force behind KCD New York. He recently became a CNCF ambassador, and it's great to sit down and talk to him about what he's working on and what he's looking at for the future. This podcast is brought to you by OVH Cloud, the global cloud provider delivering industry-leading performance and cost-effective solutions. From managed Kubernetes to private registries, OVH Cloud has the cloud-native tools you need. OVH Cloud, the world needs different. Now, let's take a look at the episode.
My name is Ahmed Bebars. I work for the New York Times, and I'm a principal engineer at the New York Times, specifically at the delivery engineering mission.
Very good. You recently became a CNCF ambassador. Congratulations. What's your area of focus? Do you create content? Do you lead meetups? What do you do?
That's very interesting. So in the past couple of years, I started with more interest in Kubernetes as a technical side, but then I started to involve more with the community. I led the organization of KCD New York. I started a meetup with Julia and David and other people. And then I don't create that much content, but I try to work with the community on solutions, see how to work more things that we might benefit from as a community overall. So that's what I'm doing, and we'll see how it goes for the next couple of years.
Fantastic. Now, there are over 200 projects in the CNCF landscape. But which 3 projects are you most excited about and why?
Kubernetes is one of the best projects that I love because it's really something that brings a lot of things around and just build a bigger ecosystem for the entire CNCF in my experience. Cilium is one of my favorite projects. I love Cilium because the way how it works, how it introduced eBPF to the market, and now it's just went from networking to security to observability to many things. And the third one, I'd go with KEDA. KEDA is a very interesting event-driven architecture scaling project that really changes a little bit. But what I like about it, it's built on top of other things. So one of the things that you usually see in projects, they start to come with their own mechanism and frameworks, and they just try to abstract too much. What KEDA comes in a way that it builds on top of HPE for scaling. So it uses the common context to build on top of something that you already know and gives you more features and power to do things in the ecosystem.
Very good. Which trend are you currently focusing on most in the cloud native ecosystem, and why do you think people should pay more attention to it?
It's very interesting, but I think Gen AI has been the trend in the market right now, and I think there's more projects gonna come out of it that related to observability and security that's built on Gen AI that makes things easier from adoption perspective, from observability perspective, from different areas of focus. But yeah, that's where exactly I believe how things will go.
Okay. And in terms of this KubeCon, are you giving a talk? Are you going to attend any talks? What do you think people should check out?
A lot of things. So first of things that you should network. Networking at these events are crucial. So this is where you learn more about what's happening in the community, what's happening in the projects. I'm actually giving a talk as a maintainer track, just showing case as a Cilium use case at the New York Times. Was Les Rice. Les already might not be there, but with the Cilium team. And then I have a couple other talks with colleagues that I'm not giving, but my colleagues at the New York Times are giving. David Grisanti and Luke Phillips, they are giving talks about Argo and platform engineering. And any chance that you learn something new, either from a talk, from a workshop, from conversation with someone, these are the most important thing. And it's not just the learning the experience that you have right now. It's more what you take this experience back to your company and your community, and you try to build from it and share it with other people. So that's what I recommend for everyone. But just catch up with a lot of people and see what's new and how is the industry is changing a lot of things.
Regarding the fact that you work for a pretty significant and well-known end user, I think there's something that I imagine a lot of people that work for vendors want to speak to you about, in terms of adoption processes, how this works out for the New York Times to decide what problems they're facing, and based on that, how they're going to find the solution that fits best. We met each other actually in Amsterdam, KubeCon. a while back, and at that point, hearing about how the New York Times was using Cilium. What is the process like in the New York Times when it comes to deciding what's going to go in your stack?
Uh, it really depends. So like we don't start by looking at the products. We start looking at the problem. So like we start looking at like what problem are we solving, and then like we see there's a build versus buy, and then like there's a vendor versus open source. I think like the more there's a shift towards open source, because that's where like we don't want to solve a problem inside the New York Times or like in a silo. We want to try to solve it in a community, and that's give us more power. So like instead of us building something for us specifically, it really depends. Like we would go to like an open source project and see like if there's something that fits. But the framework itself really starts from a problem, then look into like what do we need to build? Is that something that we solve across the industry, or it's something specific to us? How are we solving it? And then like we try usually to not reinvent the wheel, as they say, and figure out like if a vendor has done this, that's great. Let's see if we can use it. If there's an open source project, that's even better. That's mean like more community and more end users. And the critical part is like to talk to other end users. I think like the point is like we don't want to solve the same problems that someone else has solved already like 2 years ago. So if I'm trying to like approach something, I'd reach to a colleague in a different company and say like, hey, did you see this before? And they would say like, yes, no. They would refer me to someone else. And that's like how usually. So it's a problem solving at the end of the day. And that's what we do.
Fantastic. Well, Ahmed, thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to seeing you in the future. But if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
So the best way to get in touch with me is through LinkedIn. I usually try to be on top of my messages, but if I'm not, try again. And also Slack. I'm on the CNCF Slack. So if you want to reach out, please feel free to do that.
Great. You know where to find you. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you.